This next fly we're going to do is kind of a favorite of mine, coming from back east, but it's really what I call a Michigan fly. It was invented in Michigan around 1922, and this is called the Adams. And you can go all around the country, wherever there's trout and trout fishermen and fly tyers, everybody knows what the Adams is. So we're going to use a standard size dry fly hook, that number 9300 Tiemco hook, and we're going to make a nice Adams dry fly. Now originally this fly pretty much designed as a spent wing, and that's the way I tied him as a young man. My first trip to the Yellowstone country in 1967, I caught my biggest fish on the Adams on the Firehole River, and it was the first fish I ever caught on the Firehole River. It was an 18-inch big brown, took the Adams, size 12, and I've never caught a bigger fish in the Firehole all those years. Caught all smaller ones. Anyway, this is the Adams dry fly. It was originated by a Leonard Halliday, and it was tied for, and the man who first fished it, his name was Adams. So that's where the name stuck, the Adams. We're going to use a brown hackle, straight brown, and a grizzly, or barred rock is the old term for a grizzly. And for a tail, I'm going to use the hackles on the side, because a lot of times they're shorter, but the barbels are real stiff. So if you're looking for tail material, looking on the side of your necks a lot of time, and you'll get a shorter hackle, but they'll be real stiff material. Very good. So we got that. So we're going to just make that. The original fly actually was probably tied with a little bit of wood duck or golden pheasant crest for the tail. But through the years, everybody has migrated to, and we all use hackle. The same color hackle we use for our hackle we use for the tail. Just balances the fly a little nicer. Got to keep playing with these barbels to get them right where you want to mix a brown and grizzly. We'll call it grizzly. The old term was barred rock. There we go. And I'm going to bring that body up and leave a little room now for that wing. We're going to use grizzly and wing for everything. So, and muskrat. This is the way I tied it about 45 years ago, and it's the way the original dressing was. So we're going to take some bigger hackle from this barred rock, and we're going to create a spent wing. And this is the way I actually fished them and tied them. So we're going to tie a nice big spent wing. I'm looking for two hackles about the same size. I want a broad hackle so it has a nice size wing. I'm going to use this wing for my, get one better than that. There we go. There's two of them together and it's just about right. So we're going to take two hackles and we're going to clean off and we're going to tie them in spent wing. So in other words, we're going to tie one. We could tie them together and then split them, but I'm going to go ahead and tie them spent this way. See if we can't get around the wing like this. It's okay, but let's do it right. What I might do is I might try it a little different ways. There's a lot of ways of doing things. You know how many different ways there are to skin a cat. So we're going to try this, do this Adams wing, and we're going to put it on together, both wings, and then we're just going to turn them. If that doesn't work, we'll do it the other way. We try both. I do different ways. All right, we turn them. That way they're both the same length. Oop, I spoke too soon. You want to go around the base of the wing, if you can get it in there. That's it. Base of the wing and form a nice little loop. And the wing kind of cocks up slightly, but it's spent. In other words, it's out to the sides is what you want. That looks pretty good. That wings look a little long, but that's the way the original was tied, and that's the way I tied them many years ago. We also, more popular now than the actual Adams fly is the Adams parachute, which is, again, a little more modern than this fly. But this goes back to the 1920s, 1922, named after a man named Adams. Now we're going to take some dubbing, and I make all my own dubbing out of natural furs. Make everyone, dye the colors, do it all. The stuff you buy already packaged up dubbing is really nice and fine, so there's nothing wrong with it, especially on the small flies. It's perfect. I enjoy playing with the furs, and I do all my own dubbing. So this is actually muskrat fur, cut off the hide and blended in a little coffee blender. There we go. We got that on there. We're going to make a nice thin, nice perfect muskrat color gray body. and leave a little room for our hackle. That's the Adams dry fly. There we go. Now we're going to take one grizzly and get one about a size 12. So you want a nice hackle. I got two grizzly next to me. I'm going to pick a dark one if I can. Here's a dark one, about a 12. Perfect. 12. And then we're going to take a brown. And that color keeps appearing all the time, whether you tie in the Michigan caddisfly or the Michigan hopper. A lot of different patterns call for brown and grizzly mixed. And again, I tie my dry flies with two hackles, in this case one brown, one grizzly, and tie them with the shiny sides out, dull sides together. I go underneath about a 45 with the two quills, and you try to keep them right like that when I wrap them. About a 45 degrees, about 3 wraps, and then bring what's left of the quill right up to the eye. Perfect. Now I put a little bit of cement on there. Try not to cement your wing, right on the edge, and the hackle pliers. When we're winding a hackle, we want to go once over and then back over itself. That locks it in, that ties it in. Then back through, and we're going to try to get about 2/3 of the hackle behind the wing and about 2 or 3 wraps in front of the wing. There we go. And we caught it. About 3 wraps and then break the wings off. Here's what I do. I break my wings. I don't cut them. Occasionally I might cut them but I break them. Well, what's left on those barbels, I'm going to take with my thumb and bend it back and tie it in again as part of the head. Now I've got that hackle tied in twice. I've got it tied in by the stem and the barbels. So I'm looking good. One hackle I don't like. Okay. And then we'll do the standard whip finish. And the third one or the last wrap always right by the eye. So when you pull it through, it goes right under the eye. You got it. That's a pretty quick fly, and some of the fast fly tiers out there can really whip these out when they're tying commercially. But that's a really good fly, and I like its spent wing. And I'll show you here. We'll put it on a cone for you. That's the spent wing, and of course, it looks pretty good. Spent just like that. So there is the Michigan tied Adams dry fly, the way I fished it 45 years ago in Yellowstone Park and around this area. It's one of my favorite dry flies. My favorite dry fly I'm saving for last, and that's the gray wolf. But again, this Adams is a good fly, and we've got it, the Adams dry fly.